Welcome to, I guess, the third or fourth actual episode of this show. First of all, happy birthday.
Thank you,
I
thank you.
only just found out that it was your birthday before we went live from Sam. So, yeah, happy birthday for sure. Thanks for coming on your birthday.
Yeah, of course.
Um, just talking about you getting into this space, I wanted to start with kind of who are you? Like, who is Lake? Who is this guy who kind of came out of nowhere, who's now on M80 and, confidently talking shit on broadcasts, kind of being such a personality? Like, who are you? Where did you come from?
So I am from just the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, pretty much. I'm about an hour outside Oklahoma City. So just it's not really a small town, but it's a small place compared to where a lot of people are from. I grew up playing sports. I played football when I was a kid, but my main sport was volleyball, and that's where I get a lot of my trash talking nature. I was a screamer for sure. I just that was just my favorite thing about sports, just to be able to yell at people, yell at the other team, get in their head. I did that for I think I played volleyball for like 10 years, I think. So that's kind of where I get that nature from. Started playing CS, like really trying to go for it when I was like 16, I want to say. Played played main my first season and then kind of just worked my way up from there. Retired once in there for volleyball, and then I was like, I don't like volleyball anymore. I might as well just try to give Counter Strike a go. And that's when I started playing like FPLC, and then at the beginning of CS2 made FPL and
So,
got here.
going back to that early pit, was CS like, how did you get interested in CS? Because I know, at least being an NA, I don't know about the US at least, but in Canada, it's not super popular um, compared to, I guess, more console games. But in general, it's not something that you like go to school as much and see a lot of people playing.
Yeah. So when I was like 11, I want to say, I was playing Minecraft with some friends, and then he was like, "Hey, like play this game." And I had like an old laptop. I think it was like a Toshiba laptop. Like no keyboard. I had a mouse that was just like a USB mouse. Like I had a headset, but it was just a horrible one. I mean, I was just 11 years old. We would just mess around. That's like whatever case the Worm God is in. Like that case had just came out. I'm pretty sure when I started playing. So, and then I kind of just fell out with it. I started playing Rust a lot. I have like 8,000 hours in that game, and then I was just like, there's nowhere to go in this game. I'm just gonna go back to CS and give it a real shot.
Did you have people to play with when you first started, or was it kind of just you playing by yourself?
I played when I started playing again. I had like two or three friends I would play with. I was like level 7 way back when. I was probably 16. Had a few friends that I played with, and then I started playing Mythic Gold, and that's actually where I got my first main team from. But
Yeah,
from what I heard, they thought I was cheating, so they cut me 2 games in. But
that didn't age well.
but I mean, who knows? You never know.
I mean, I remember playing Mythic, and you were in some of the games, and even back then, you could kind of see like, I mean, I've played a decent amount of Mythic games between Ruby and Diamond back when that was the main league, and you see a lot of people come through there, and a lot of people who talk shit, but don't actually translate that into like league play. But even watching you play, like you weren't talking shit when you were actually playing with people, even if they weren't performing. But it was that combined with the fact that your decision making and like the way you aimed and everything still looked like it looked promising, I guess. And sometimes you don't always see that from people who are coming up. Can you tell me about, I guess, how you established yourself back then and what your I guess your personal approach to CS was as you started coming up into like league play?
I kind of just focused on myself. Like I wasn't watching demos or really anything at that point. Like when I was 16 or 17, I probably hadn't watched but like 5 demos. I was just like playing the game to get a feel for it again. When I stopped playing Rust, I mean that's kind of the reason why I'm probably so good at video games now. Is Rust is just it was one of the hardest games to play at the time. Like at that time frame of like 2021 to like 20 to like 2022, like that COVID time. That's when all the teams were like still doing fairly well in the Rust scene, I guess, and that's where like my mechanical prowess comes from. Realizing now playing against the top pros, I'm not like that great of a mechanical player, but I can hang with the best of them, which is always a nice thing to see.
Sorry, my
But
kitten's attacking my earbuds.
it's all right. But when it comes to like just personal like wanting to play the game, that's kind of where it was. It wasn't like I really wanted to learn about anything. Like if someone wanted to show me a piece of util or something like that, I'd learn it. But I really wasn't like that focused. I was kind of just playing the game at that point.
So mostly individual, kind of just classic NA, play your games, whatever matches are coming, you kind of play.
Yeah.
When did that change?
Would say the season that we made top 6 in ECL with Unjustified, I really started to put more work in because I mean I was always better than average player in ECL, even in CS:GO. Like I wasn't like farming, I wasn't doing anything crazy. CS2 definitely helped me with that. It kind of fit my playstyle at the beginning. I could just swing everything and just immediately just kill people, and they just didn't have time to react. So it kind of like fit my playstyle, but then I kind of realized that I needed to choke back on that a little bit as the game got updated, a little more balanced. It really wasn't working that much anymore. So I would say like as soon as CS2 came out, that's when I really started watching demos because I knew that there was like metas to be found and that everyone would just be out of it. So it'd be cool just to like pick things from different teams. So that's kind of when I started.
Also, to clarify, when I say like classic NA, I'm talking about like the lower leagues when people aren't really putting in the effort because I know
Yeah.
it's become a bit of a thing to like hate on NA, but I think the current upcomers and the current ECL teams are actually putting in a lot of effort, and I think we are seeing a change of guard because there is this point in post COVID where there was a lot of players who weren't trying, or there were a lot of players who weren't really putting in that extra effort, I guess. And we're seeing this change of guard now with you, with like Swisher coming up as well, and then a couple of these other players who've now made the jump to other teams. What was the experience like for you coming up through this generation of players?
It's a little different, my generation compared to like Mike's generations
Yeah,
for
Mike's
sure.
is a little bit behind for sure.
His is like he was almost a part of that like Valorant era that kind of
Yes.
faded out. He was like right on that border. He might have been in that era a little bit, honestly, when he was younger. But like for me, it's a lot different. Like there was maybe 4 up and coming talents when I came up. It was like me, JBA, Grizz, and I mean that was kind of it. Like me, like us 3 were kind of like the last of the young players that we've seen so far. I am hopeful that more players start coming up. I think there are a few younger kids who are playing that are looking good at the moment. So I just hope that they can develop and like have the right mindset for it. But that era, I, I would say that NACS as a whole looks like it's improving to me, but I do fear like the younger kids are going to go to Valorant or games of that nature, and they're not really going to come to CS.
Do you think it's going to happen again?
I don't think it's going to happen again. I think that the young, like kids who are like 13 to 16 and they like, oh, I want to start playing video games, I don't know if a lot of them are going to choose Counter-Strike over Valorant.
Fair. I think Valorant has definitely become much harder to go pro in now, just based on the way their franchise system works and the way some of the teams work. So it'll be interesting to watch that transition because that was something that we suffered as a setback. Was when Valorant came out, all these players obviously left, like the ones that were the next ones up. Even Vanity is the next IGL, or Leaf, Zeppa, etc. We had this departure of players with that kind of mid-tier of North America not there. Did you feel like there was something missing in terms of what you could learn from the people above you?
I think that played a part. I think I got an opportunity that most people wouldn't have because when that whole EG shuffle came about, I actually was able to get Walco, and because I got Walco, I was able to get Wiz. And there was some just roster issues that happened. We just had players that weren't meshing well, and Walco was basically like, I love you guys and like I think this project can work out, but I need to do something like now, and I respected that decision. He went to PA. I think like 2 weeks later he got picked up um, to NRG, and I think that there was a lot of things that I wanted to learn from Colby that I just wasn't able to. But I think he did teach me enough like about myself and like how I need to find my play style to actually help me with the transition into M80.
Touching on the newer gen, I guess Mike wasn't the best example because he was around before. But if we like look down the list, I mean, George is kind of similar. He was also around a little bit, but he's also coming up. But we also have like, as you said, like the boss guys are also coming up now. They've made they kind of impressed with the last Armor as well. If I look down the list, there is still a gap though. Like you have, as you said, there's like you, and then there's who else did you mention? There is
JBA and Grizz.
JBA, yeah, exactly. JBA and Grizz, and then there is this kind of gap. And what do you think creates that? Do you have any idea?
I am actually like not too sure what the gap is. I think there could be a lot of issues. I think NA in itself has just in I don't even know where to begin to start fixing North America. I don't think it's a very solvable thing. I know a lot of like admins and Faceit are trying to do it. I talk to Slow about it a lot. Even FPL right now is struggling. It's just the way it is right now. It seems like it's getting better though, because there's just like I think with this next invite system, like 2025, even though it looks rough, I think that the qualifiers will trickle down, or like the invites will trickle down into North America. But the issue is like I think Mike tweeted about it. There's just not a lot of Valve points in the region, so I think we might just get just shit out of luck when it comes to that. And there's only going to be like 3 or 4 teams from NA getting invited, and everybody else just kind of has to fend for themselves in ECL again.
With that in mind, when you actually started to like, when did you actually want to go pro? I guess first of all.
I wanted to go pro. I gave myself a year actually. It was actually this year. If I said it was like probably February, and it was just looking like really bad, honestly. There wasn't like anything going on. I think Walco had just left the team at that point, and I felt like he was like one of my best chances to like finally learn. And then he departed, and I was just like, I don't know if I can keep this up much longer. I joined a fraternity in college, so I had college obligations, I had fraternity obligations, and then I was playing Counter-Strike on top of that. And there was a time there where I was just like, is this really even worth it anymore? Like, because there was seemingly no opportunities for me. I was talking to maybe one team at the time, but they decided to go with somebody else. It was just it was just an unfortunate situation and time. So I gave myself till the end of this year. Actually, I said if I don't get a good offer that's salaried by the end of the year, I'm probably done.
I mean, you did end up getting a good offer with M80, obviously. But before we jump to that, just you mentioned earlier that you were kind of individually focused early on, and you didn't watch too many demos way back. That's, I guess, that's kind of part of the experience as well, where you have these players who are very individually focused, and you specifically you kind of do play this harder entry style. Um, as a whole in NA, being a part of that, did you feel like putting that effort into your individual abilities and your individualized decision making early on was not necessarily the right decision, but worth it, I guess? Do you think that was the right way to go for your development?
Looking back on it now, I definitely wish I watched more demos, because I think even now I have a lot to learn. I think I'm learning at a pretty good rate right now, but I think I'm just still a decent way behind. I think I have a pretty good intuition when it comes to the game, which I think came from just playing all those pugs and just all those situations. It's obviously a lot different playing at the tier 1 level than playing tier 3 people and just like seeing the reactions and stuff. But I think I pick up on reactions pretty fast. So I think that just came from playing the game a lot. I don't mess up things too many times like in a row. There are certain spots on certain maps where I just struggle more. It's just there's so many things that go into like a spot on a map, and there are definitely some maps I'm weaker on, and I'm watching demos trying to catch up on them. I think it's just also the way I play. Like take Anubis for example. You have E-Box. It used to be the star position, but as of right now, it's kind of just like, oh, let's trade util, get into that late round. If they hit your bomb site, now you're the star. Now you're the rifler you want to be. Now you can take those fights. So unless it's kind of like a difficult position for me just to like learn how to like trade util and not necessarily go aggro every round and just die, because that was kind of a big problem for me. So I'm kind of just learning uh like when the right timing is, because I used to be like one speed 100% all the time when I joined the team, and that was obviously not a good thing. It created just too much chaos, and I was just like dying for no reason on parts of the map where I just shouldn't be. I still kind of do that now, but I think I'm 4 months in. I think I'm starting to like get the full grasp and the ideas. But yeah.
When you made this, or I guess when you first started making an impression was when you joined Snake's Den. You're playing Advanced, and then eventually you made ECL with Unjustified, I think.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that early league period before we get to M80 and just what the initial experiences were like, just with Snake's Den at first?
Honestly, I was actually the IGL of that team.
Yeah, Cyrix told me.
Yeah. So I was just pug IGLing like that entire time. I was saying stuff that I thought made sense in my mind. Obviously, it worked to some degree. It probably wasn't the most cleanest direct CS, but I think the real strong thing about that team is we could like always rely on like to play with each other. Like we were always like kind of packed up. That's kind of how I just called. Made everything a lot easier for me. But when it came to that, I think just the saving grace of that was we were just a pretty close knit team, I would say, as a five, and like we just kind of used that to just push us through CS2 finals or CS2 playoffs. Like as soon as it came out, nobody expected us. Everybody kind of called it a Mickey Mouse run, because I'm pretty sure the season before we were supposed to get auto relegated or something like that. But I think Payne had dropped out, so we went to we did advanced to relegation, I think, and we got like fifth. And I want to say a team died in ECL, and that's why we got the spot. So we would have been last place in that, and then played a season of ECL in CS:GO, I think, for a season, and then switched to CS2. And I think that was just kind of where the story started for me, at least.
That period IGLing, how much did it help you, or do you look back on it as something that helped form your current, I guess, mindset?
I think that it helped me like just kind of think about rounds. There's a lot of times where right now especially where I'll like think about rounds and like I'll like have a call or like I'll have a play I want to do, but the issue is right now that I'm just like not fast enough at saying them. Like me and my team have had a little bit of an issue. Like I'll start calling something at like 6 seconds left in freeze time, and they're just like, you can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's my bad. I just have to think about it and say it a lot faster. But I think the mindset of thinking about it definitely came from me IGLing in that ECL period. I didn't really put too much thought into it. I had my coach back then who kind of helped me through with that. He brought in a lot of set stuff for me that really helped, but I could run a pretty good, I wouldn't say pretty good, I'd say a okay default that would work.
I asked Cyrix if he had any stories or anything that he could share that would kind of give me some behind the scenes looks at what was going on in your early career that I wouldn't be able to research. And he mentioned that IGL, but he also said that he felt that that period in Unjustified was a formative period for you personally. Would you agree with that? And how do you feel about that time?
I would say that a lot of what I realized that I needed and that I wanted out of players came from Unjustified. I realized that there's a lot of like personalities in the game, and like some people just don't mesh with certain personalities. Like I've played with some like pretty good people, but like personality-wise just didn't mesh with the team, or the team didn't mesh with them, and that happens. So I think I've kind of realized like what type of teammates I need around me. Personality-wise, I think I became a lot more assertive in that Justified roster, just because like I thought I knew what was best and I wanted it to be ran. So that's kind of just why I was calling that way. But I think that's probably the baseline of a formative like personality, I guess, in the game. I realized that like I wanted to be in those star roles. I wanted to be just active. I just wanted to be taking space. That was just always my fit role.
What kind of personalities do you need around you?
So there's definitely different types of personalities I need more of like a I need like one calm person on a team, I would say. That's kind of who I think it too as like the glue. I think now I think it's a little different because I think like the person I'm probably closest to on this team is probably Mike. Mike's
Uh-huh.
just like an older brother to me. Like everything, like anything that I need to talk to him about in the game, out of the game, I feel like we're pretty close in that regard. So it's always just nice. Like he'll show me some stuff, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's cool, and we just like talk about the game a lot together. I think it's like a big part of that. I think like if normally I need like one person that I can like really get close to. I think I'm pretty close with like all my teammates, just in general. But I think me and Mike are definitely the closest. I think that's like the one thing I really need is like to be close with somebody in a team.
So tell me about joining M80 itself and what that initial experience was like, because you kind of were thrown into the deep end with this esports World Cup as your first event.
Yeah.
Um, and just, yeah, it was obviously a trial by fire, but just what your initial reaction was to even getting the offer, and then your initial time on the team, I guess.
So I don't remember when exactly. I just know I got messaged by Don, our like manager,
Yeah,
and he
Sicko.
was yeah, sicko. And he was like, "Hey, we're interested if you would like to like have an interview," or they were like, "We would like to have an interview with you, just have a talk." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, cool." And I really wasn't expecting anything of it. Like I went and told my mom, I was like, "Hey, like if I get this opportunity, I'm going to be traveling in Europe and stuff, and I like won't be home as much." She didn't really believe me that much. She was like, "Okay, like we'll see." And just I had an interview with him. He was like, "Okay, we'll give you we'll hit you up later on." I was like, "Okay, sounds good." They talked to a few more people, and then they were like, yeah, just if you're interested in joining, come on." And I was like, absolutely. Like, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine to play Pro CS. It's just kind of always what I wanted to do since probably 16 years old. It's kind of the only thing that I've found interesting so far. Like, I went to college. College was not that interesting. I just couldn't really keep my attention. But this is something that really keeps my attention, and it really just it makes me happy. It's like fulfilling to do.
Did you feel any pressure coming in as a replacement for Melbs?
Yeah. Yeah, actually. I mean, honestly, sometimes I still kind of do. Like those are some massive shoes to fill. Like that's one of the greatest players we've seen in CS2. Like by far. He's probably a top being being humble for him, I'd say he's top 10, but honestly, I could say he might be top 5 right now. He's just an incredible player. That those are just massive shoes to fill. I think now it's not so bad, but I definitely think like joining the team, I was like, holy shit! Like I have to replace one of the best riflers that I've ever seen in my life. I think that I'm making strides towards that, but I don't think I'm anywhere near him. But I think the pressure is kind of like worn off a bit for sure.
Coming in and filling those roles and having to play at a top level, like international level that you hadn't before, what was it like coming into these big events, seeing all these big teams and actually playing them on the server? Because it's, especially your style, the roles that you play aren't are quite hard to play when you're facing teams that are obviously way crisper and way more drilled than teams in uh, ESL Challenger, etc.
Yeah. It was kind of like a shell shock, honestly. Like I had a week of scrims in Poland before I went and played EWC. EWC, that was an insane, like kind of like wake up call. I went from absolutely farming the top of North America, and then I played the number one team at the time. I just got my teeth kicked in pretty much. That's when like Apex was like shit talking, like I could hear him, and I was like, okay. And so that was it kind of made me realize like I have to bring something to the table later on in my career. So that's definitely why, like after EWC, when I kind of got like my feet on the ground, I was like, okay, like I need to start bringing more of my personality into it. So that's definitely why I started yelling. Obviously, EPL went pretty well for us. That's kind of where everybody saw me. Was like, oh, this guy screams at people. Had a lot of Brazilian fans really mad at me, but hey, what can you do?
That's just part of the experience.
Yeah.
Talking about that Pro League run a little bit, as you said, you were yelling a lot. The team got some good results, but also your impact on the server was like, I mean, your rating's not super high, but when you actually watch the matches, you could see the kind of impact that you were having on the game plans and the way that the game was unfolding around you. Being able to go to a LAN like that and get that result and play the way that you were playing, how important was that to come back and kind of reset from the EWC result for you individually?
Well, at that point, I definitely had some there was more like stability. Because at that point, I was, I, EWC was a week into me joining the team, but
Yeah.
EPL was probably about like 3 months, around 3.5 months. So I had finally started to like integrate the way I kind of wanted to play into the team because I'm not a one for one with Mario. We play the same roles, but we aren't the same person. And I just like I kind of need to figure out what works for me and what worked for him. I think a lot of the stuff that they ran with him also works for me, but I also kind of want to have my own little touch on the game. But overall, I think that it was just a huge confidence boost because I knew even in EWC, like I absolutely got farmed by Vitality, but then we played Complexity and we beat them. And I was like, okay, like this is a top team. They're North American, so they play a more comfortable style than I'm used to. But this shows me that I can do it. So that kind of got my feet into the like feet in the water a little bit with that one. It wasn't such a oh, let me jump in the deep end. It was a okay, let me just wade in the waters and test it out a little bit. And then we had I want to say it was Blast Fall, I think we played. We played against Falcons. I played individually. I played okay. Uh, I played good because of like my standards of good at that point. Like I was calling for stuff I wanted. I was having impact in rounds, even though we lost. I kind of still looked at that as a positive for myself. Maybe not as a team, but I could definitely tell that I was improving as a player, which was really needed at that point to see in myself. And then going from that, and then coming back and playing ECL for a while, and then going back to EPL, it was EPL was a good showing to me that I can play well against top European competition, even though we only played one European team while we were there. The other two were Brazilian, and then one was American. But that Fnatic win was pretty big for us. It showed that we had the grit to get through the longest game in CS2 history. That game was absolutely horrible. It was just so long. 2 hours and 50 minutes for one map. That's just unheard of. But it really showed to us that we can play a high level of Counter Strike and play with the big dogs at that point. And I think that going from that, I think we have strong like desire to want to win for the RMR in the major. I think we're all pretty confident that we're gonna make the major at this point. I think it's just a matter of time. Just keep getting better, just keep integrating things, and I think we'll make it.
When you were at EPL, I remember some of the post-game interviews and then the little couch segments. You also talked about your relationship with Mike, some of what you mentioned earlier as well, but also that during games, sometimes you would go quiet or you would have moments where you weren't quite speaking up or being as energetic, and he had to remind you, or during one of the breaks between maps, he kind of prompted you to be like, we need this from you. Can you tell me about that dynamic between you guys, but also um, establishing your voice in terms of being that energetic, kind of not shit talker, but trying to get the team vibes up and get them on, get them going.
So honestly, I would say that I do it for myself. I think it's just a benefit to the team. I think that just kind of being in my element is like I've played sports like all my early life. So just like getting that, just screaming at people, like getting that competitive edge over them, I think it's very good for me and my headspace. It kind of calms me down a bit. I think there are some times in these big matches where I do get a little nervous at the beginning, and I think if I just start off hot, those issues kind of go away because I start kind of like feeling the game and I start showing my personality, and I think that gets the team fired up. But I do think there are two sides to that coin. I think if that's not happening at a LAN, that we can be very flat energy wise if like I'm not doing that. I think as a team, it brings us up a lot if I do have that, but it also is hard. I can get in my own head sometimes for sure. I just not playing how I want or how I expect myself to play. I think it can be very hard sometimes to keep that energy level up. I also know it's like young in my career. Like I'm a young guy, just turned 20. So I know it's kind of a big thing to work on, at least to show that I can be a leader in this team and like always bring what we need instead of only when I'm playing well. So I think that's something I'm kind of working through as I move further on in my career.
Going back to your last answer, you mentioned that you and Malbs are different people. Can you expand on that a little?
Um, we're just different people in the sense of I think that I'm a lot more personality wise. I think I'm just a lot more like in your face. I'm honestly like not the loudest guy in the world, but I would say like in the server, I'm definitely a lot louder. I think I bring the energy of the team up to an insane level when it comes to that. I think with him, it was a lot more consistent, which I think is actually good sometimes because his consistent baseline of energy was a good level, but I think my ups and downs are also kind of the downfall of us sometimes. So, like I said, that's just something I have to work on, get used to. I just need to kind of always bring that energy to keep us up.
I want to touch on the dynamic of the team a little bit and what your relationship with the players have been like, because you spoke a little about Swisher, but just a bit more on him and how he's helped your development. You said he's like a bit of a brother to you on this team. So just how he's helped and what your relationship with him has been like, how important that's been for you.
Honestly, it's been pretty good. I think also I'd say the people I'm closest to on the team are Fritz and Mike, so slaxz and Swisher. I think that like there's nothing like bad about the other two, about Elias and Rek, or Ethan. I love them both. I They're just like a more quiet type. Like Elias is a pretty quiet guy, and so is Ethan. Like they just are kind of they're more of like to themselves personality wise, which is fine. I just like if there's somebody like I really like need to confide in, whether it's like the game or just personal life, those are kind of the two that I talk about. But mainly it is Mike. I think me and Mike are just the closest that I am with somebody. I think it's kind of just like he took me under his wing pretty early and just kind of like showed me the ropes, kind of showed me how it needs to be. Yell at me if I need to be yelled at. It happens. I think
How
for
often was that?
at the beginning, I think it was definitely a struggle. I think they were all realizing like I am kind of a lost dog a little bit. It's just gonna be the way it is for a little while. I think now I think it's much less now, but if I do mess something up, they do kind of give me a little slap on the back of the head, like, hey, don't be an idiot. But in the beginning, I think we talked about it, and Rory was like, hey, like he's kind of getting his feet on the ground a little bit. You guys need to like relax, let him make these mistakes. Like we can talk about it afterwards. It doesn't need to be something that's like done in the game, because I think that also helped my confidence a little bit with like I'm just doing things and I need to be told no, but like if you tell me no in the game, I'm not gonna like realize why. I need it
Yeah.
to be like reviewed afterwards, right? But like now, if someone's like, no, don't do that, sometimes I'll still do it. I won't lie. I did that in a scrim the other day, and they were like, "Are you a fucking idiot?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, a little bit." But I mean, there was just like if we like it was me and Fritz. There was a round where I walked into lower, and he was like, do not do that. I told you no." And I was like, "All right." And it was just kind of like one of those things where I was limit testing a little too much, I think, and I was just trying to see if I could find the gap, but it just wasn't a smart thing to do. And I think I have enough trust in all of them to kind of say that to me now, and built that relationship. But early on, I definitely think Rory was right in just letting me make those mistakes and figuring it out afterwards. But now I definitely say like I have thick skin. It's not really gonna bother me as long as you give me a reason why. I'm not really gonna ask too much.
I was looking back at an interview Dust2US did when you first joined on M80, and they talked to like your old teammates essentially, and they kind of explained that you did have to be held back sometimes, or that you would make plays and not really talk about it. Like you'd be up A ramp on Vertigo and kill two people, but then everyone would be like in a mid B default or something. Um, Tell me about reining yourself in on this team with what you just talked about in mind, but also just in terms of your development, because in that interview, it also said that you watch a lot more demos now and you kind of put in the effort to learn yourself. So kind of bringing those two together and how your development's gone in that sense.
I think my development's going pretty well. I obviously would like to see myself develop a lot faster than I have been. I think that just requires me putting more time into it. I think I've been a little lackluster sometimes for sure into putting the effort I need to put into the game. I think I think I do an okay job, but it's not really where I want to be in terms of like just individual level or at a team level. I think I lack in a bunch of areas that I just need to get better in, and it just comes with time with demos. I think I really need to see a better improvement of that in myself. But overall, I think I'm not going to be too mad at my improvement. I think it's been going relatively well. I think that I have kind of had to rein myself in a little bit. I think Vertigo was like my best map, for example, and I was like always finding gaps, always just taking my timings. But I tried to do that in Europe, and I kind of realized that oh shit, like there are no gaps, there really are no timings unless it's like a very specific moment. But I didn't know what those moments were because I had never played European competition. You can watch the demos, but until you play them, you don't really know. So that's kind of how my development's been. I'm finally starting to like kind of look for my timings again and kind of get the feel for it. But I was playing pretty baseline when I joined the team. I wasn't really trying to do anything funky. But I think now I'm starting to kind of get my footing into like when I can take those aggro lurks or aggro timings while still being like not a liability.
This might be a hard question to answer, but could you break down, I guess, the difference between trying to find those timings at, let's say, like an NAECL level versus a pro level?
So I would say that
Or I guess, sorry, like a
rotations,
European international level,
yeah.
I should say.
So I mean, you can take that vitality game for example. Like I'm trying to do things that worked in North America, but it's they people just have like bad what do you call it? Reactions or like starts. There's always some gap, especially at the beginning of CS2 and CS:GO. I was always just looking for timings, walking through smokes, just like kind of like fading the smokes on the edge with the molly. I was kind of always doing that and always managing to kill people, always find timings. But the issue in Europe, at least, was like they know that that's there. They're going to pick it up and they're going to like make sure it's covered. So let's say they throw like the bottom ivy smoke and then they molly ramp and then you walk in between the smoke and the molly so you don't take Molotov damage. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to take this timing. You get flashed. In North America, the flash just might not come. So there's just kind of those discrepancies for sure. Also, rotates are a little more unknown for a map like Vertigo. I think people just walk a lot more in Europe. It's just a lot more calm. So in an A, I'd say like I can hear a lot of people's rotates, especially like the more worse teams. They kind of just panic a lot. So you throw an exec on one site, I just walk up the ramp and I'm like, okay, I hear X, Y, and Z people, and I hear exactly where they are. I'm gonna go fight them on a one-on-one because if I take that 1v1 and win, I take the bomb site. So it's kind of just like those things. But in Europe, it's definitely a lot harder, especially against somebody like Zywoo. That guy's just incredible. Well, like the best player I've ever played against so far.
Yeah, he's kind of good, isn't he?
He's kind of good. Yeah, it's not even like he was flashy. He was just so consistent and just knew when fights were coming. So that's kind of something that I look into. I watch a decent amount of his demos actually on Inferno. I think he's a very good aggro B rifler on Inferno T side. So just kind of taking a little bit of his ideas.
As you've kind of worked your way through this M80 period, how has it been working under Sin and getting that European IGL experience, and how different has that been?
It's been definitely different. There's definitely a lot more structure than I've ever been used to. I still have to get used to that sometimes. I think I need to realize that I can't just like not say a word and take a timing without saying anything. That's kind of something I've had to get used to. Like my teammates need to know. But like when I was playing at the lower level, like it didn't matter. Like it was just like, okay, I'm gonna take my timing. If I win the round, I win the round. That's kind of how my thought process was. Now those moments are definitely like a lot more rare. If that happens, somebody's always like talking for me. Like if I get in a good spot, somebody's dead. Somebody's always talking for me, so I don't have to say anything. But overall, I think that he brings a lot of structure to the team. I think him and Rory do a really good job structuring our team and like playing to our strengths for sure. I think that in my development, I think I get a lot from Elias and Rory. I think Rory has probably helped me the most in my play style, just to like kind of like show me like what's wrong, and like he'll actually like work with me like through it. He's like, hey, like this is not good. Like you need to do X, Y, and Z while we're reviewing, and I'll like kind of take that to heart, kind of think about it, and try not to make those mistakes again.
You said that slaxz has been pretty, like slaxz and Swisher are like the two people who've been, I guess you're the two people that you're closest to on the team. Can you tell me more about the slaxz dynamic and what he's helped you with?
So there's a lot. We play together a decent amount on maps. Obviously, just me being like the high like impact rifler and him being the opera, we like to work together a lot. So like so whatever he's doing, I have to know what he's doing, and whatever he's not doing, I have to know what he's not doing. So like there's a lot of times where we're just together on a side of the map. So we kind of just always kind of talk like that. Just kind of figured out what we liked, what we didn't like together. I think my play style definitely like evolves around him a little bit and like what he thinks. Because I would say I'm like pretty impressionable for my teammates. They'll have like more experience than I do. Obviously, there are some things where I'm like, I want to do this, but most of the time, if they're like, hey, like this is why this was bad. Like we just played against Legacy the other day, and I was like, hey, like I really didn't know what to do here, and we talked about it. And he was like, well, like I'm here and you're here. You can just hold here. I'm like, oh, okay. Because like right now I kind of still have like that panic a little bit where it's like if someone's saying like, hey, I'm throwing a flash, like my immediate reaction is, okay, I'm going to peek this flash, but in
Right.
reality I can just ignore that. And that's kind of something that he's been helping me through a little bit, is like you don't have to play with things. Like you can get the flash if you want to do it, but don't think that's like your only option. And there's definitely been a few situations like that where it's like he's kind of just like guiding me through kind of like what it means to be like a good player almost in a way, and just like kind of realizing what I need to do on a lot of situations and maps. So I think that he's definitely like one of the bigger players or like bigger people in my CS life that like really make me think about the game.
How about outside the server in terms of just how he is individually? Because we don't hear too much from him, but he seems like a bit of a funny guy in some of the clips I've seen of him.
No, Fritz is definitely a funny guy. He's actually a pretty like loud person. He's just like, I don't know if it's like the stage or if you guys just like don't think he says a lot, but he's definitely like one of the bigger talkers on the team.
Mhm.
I'd say like the people who talk the most are definitely me, Mike, and Fritz. Just throw us in a hat one day, and definitely the least two are Ethan and Elias. They're just not very big talkers, which is fine. They're both just quiet people in general.
You mean specifically out of the server, right?
Yeah, out of the
Yeah.
server. They're like me, Mike, and Fritz could literally just yap to each other all day, just constantly talk. Honestly, Elias sometimes. It really just depends. Ethan is definitely the quietest on the team. He's kind of always just chilling by himself, watching Twitch videos. He's the only person I know who will sit at his computer and laugh out loud at like a Twitch VOD, or like I'm just like, what is so funny? But
What is so funny?
I nothing. Zoomer humor is what I would say. He's over there watching like Speed and like Kai Cenat. I'm just like, all right, bro, just doing his own thing.
Fair enough. Uh, Turning attention back to, I guess, M80's progress. As we said, you had that EPL result, but then, you had that result, and then you went into ESL Challenger Atlanta. Um, Especially after that, it seemed like you guys would be a lock in for playoffs, but you didn't even make it through groups. Can you tell me about that, and I guess what happened, but also if that affected you guys at all and what the mentality was like afterward?
I would say that we really didn't play our game to any degree. I think that there was a lot of issues that we kind of realized and worked through after that tournament. There was for sure just we were playing nervous. We were playing really passive, weren't taking map control like at all, and that's just kind of really hard to play with. And we worked through it. We like watched all this, and we were like, wow, we never do this in scrims or anything. It could have been any factor. It could have been the first time with the crowd. Like I've never played with the crowd before. And like I was definitely going into that wild card game, I think I was definitely like a little jittery, I would say. Going into the big game, I think I was a little jittery. And I think we were all like communication wise, I think we were all pretty quiet. And that just shouldn't be a thing at all. Like we definitely need to be like a more solid team, especially in those moments where it's like playoffs are on the line. But I think overall, I don't think it really affected our mentality too badly. I think it did the opposite, actually. I think it kind of realized what we need to work on. It was kind of like a kick in the ass almost. It was like, hey, like we need to focus on this and we need to do it fast because we have to like get into top shape for this Thunderpick tournament and then obviously the RMR.
Do you think that kind of result came at a good time going into these events? Because it's going to be, I mean, obviously the RMR is going to be huge for you personally as your first chance to try and qualify for a major at an actual RMR, and it's a big step. And the possibility of making it to major, there's a lot more slots for Americas this time. It's not the really shitty format where you're out after 2 losses in Swiss.
Yeah.
So just in terms of that result setting the tone heading into Thunderpick, more importantly the RMR, how are you feeling with that?
I think I'm actually feeling really good about the progress we've made. I think that for every like setback, we definitely make strides because it kind of just shows us what we need to do in that regard. It's just like, hey, we need to focus on this. I think there's a lot of individual things that I've been focusing on that I've been improving on. So I think that's just always a bonus. Like I got a lot of things that I needed to work on from those games in Atlanta, where I was just kind of like what I was doing wasn't like normal, or like it wasn't something that I would do often, or it was something that I did too often. So kind of just realizing that about myself, realizing kind of like my tendencies, what I do, changing it up more, being a little more unreadable when it comes to my game. But I think it was definitely the right time for it to happen. It gave us time to fix everything that needed to be fixed, and like at the very least patch it up and keep working on it, or just fix it entirely. But I think it was definitely at the best time because it just gives us that enough gap where we can like work on those things and get them solved, and at the same time like we can keep growing as a team rather than like, let's say Atlanta was 2 weeks before the RMR. Like that could have been really dangerous for us as a team. But when it comes to the RMR, I think that the team is really hungry for it because they only missed it by a round last time.
Yeah.
It was a round and they were playing with their coach. So I think that everybody's hungry for it. It's my first one, so I'm obviously hungry for it and I really just want to make it.
Do you feel like, how do you feel in terms of the pressure of trying to make the major? Do you feel that, or is it just, are you approaching it as just another tournament, or is that like an actual reality for you? Like you could have stickers in the game. This is like a big moment.
I think because it's like so far away, honestly, like I haven't really thought about it too much.
Um,
It's just like I play this game. I want to be like immortalized in a way in this game. It's just like something that I've always dreamed about having was my own sticker. But I wouldn't say like it's more pressure in a way. I think the RMR is just going to feel like another tournament, but at the same time it needs to feel like a more important tournament. But I think just like the level of focus and just level of team play that we're going to have going to the RMR, it should be at its highest level. And so we should be I have a good trust in us to make it.
are you gonna stay in Shanghai after the RMR if you qualify for the major?
I believe so.
Okay. 'Cause I know some teams tried for multi-entry, some didn't get it. I don't know if anyone's actually gonna get it,
Yeah.
but what is the, I guess, general plan for once you get to Shanghai? Are you gonna scrim early on and then play the RMR and then just practice for the rest of it? What's the
Well, so I believe we get in like a couple days before the RMR. So we'll probably get in, do some scrims for sure,
Yeah.
and then we'll play that RMR, and then if we make it, we'll stay. And I think it'll probably just end up becoming like a boot camp, to be honest.
Yeah,
But I'm not really too sure how that's gonna work or what it looks like. That would not be a question for me.
fair. You said earlier that when you told your parents or your mom about signing for M80 and you're traveling around, that she was like, oh, okay, whatever. How about now? Now that you've been to some of these international tournaments, now that you're going to Shanghai for the RMR, what does everyone else have to say around you?
I mean, my family's definitely happy. I have a bunch of friends that are like, wow, it's kind of insane. Um, but my mom's definitely like, never would have thought a million years that like I can make a salary and travel the world playing video games. It was always kind of something that I just did, and she kind of had no idea about. Like I obviously made money from FPLC and FPL, so she saw like there was money to be made, but just didn't know to what extent and to if I could make it my job, which I always kind of told her it was. But I guess she says she's happy for me. I think she misses me, but it's life.
When you say that, that's because you're living in a like boot camp or apartment area with M80, right?
Yeah, we're in Austin right now in a team house, and
Okay.
then yeah, and then other than that, I mean, I go home for player breaks and like if I have some doctor's appointments that are important, like I'll go back home for a weekend, but that's really it.
What has the team house experience been like?
I mean, it's just five guys living together. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just what you think of. Everybody has their PCs downstairs. Just it's just five friends living together pretty much. And then we get on, we work together, and then we get off, and then just play random shit together. And we're just a big group of friends, group of guys, great teammates. I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them. They're just all good guys.
Yeah, I asked because we don't see team houses as often anymore, especially at a top level, because a lot of these teams have, offices or, boot camp areas, and then they have players in their own apartments. For example, like Liquid have their boot camp facility, but then all the players have their own little apartments. So having like top teams in these team houses isn't something that we see as much nowadays, but it used to be really common. Um, do you feel like that's it's maybe not sustainable long term, but just in terms of like how long do you see like this team house environment being able to work for all of you?
I think as long as like we get that player break every 6 months or so, I think it should be fine. I don't know how long this was going to be. I I don't know if we're getting an office space or anything in the future. I'm not really too sure. To have to ask other people because
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I just work here. But when we go to Europe, like we'll have our own individual rooms and apartments and stuff like that.
Right.
So when we go to that Berlin boot camp, it'll be like 2.5 weeks where I don't have to share a room with anybody. Because in Malta, that definitely sucked.
Yeah.
I was in a hotel room with Fritz for like 2.5 weeks.
And then Yeah, lastly, just we talked about the RMR, but heading towards the end of the year, just for you personally, what kind of not necessarily goals are you setting yourself, but what's your personal outlook on uh, your time in M80 so far and for the rest of the year, and how you kind of envision your career, where you set your personal objectives?
I really just want to, in the future, anyways, I really just want to make this. I want to make it NA have like two top 10 teams. Like I want like us and Cole to be in there. Obviously, Liquid. I would say they're like a half and half NA team, kind of
They're
like us.
Canadian. Thank you very
Uh,
much.
they are Canadian. That is North American. But I think like having like three or four NA teams within the top 20 is a really good thing. And I want to make us into a top 10 team.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like the goal for the future for like us as a whole. I think for me, I really want to like show to myself what I can do, and I really want to have that impact that Mario had. I think right now I show like glimmers of it, but it's not really at a consistent level like I want it to be. So just towards the future, definitely working on that. I wouldn't say like my early career has been anything to like laugh at or like it's been. I think it's been like honestly, I would say it's a pretty solid early career. I'm North American. There aren't many experiences here, so even this amount of experience that I've gotten so far, I think it's very good steps towards what I can do in the future.
And then, are there any parting words you want? Anything you want to shout out? Anyone you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I mean, not really. Just want to say thank you to all the fans. Thank you to everybody who supports us. It really does mean a lot when we get a bunch of support from you guys. Seeing you guys in the chats, seeing you guys just have that M80 merch on when you're at tournaments. It does mean a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thank you.